Hey ladies, it's a Saturday morning and I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick tutorial video on my favorite pattern of mine, which is the angel pattern. I'm doing a large for a customer real quick. I already have all my pieces cut out, my back panel, my gusset, 2 sleeves, 2 of our front panels, 1 bottom front to our undies, and our back panel. As always, the first thing I'm gonna do is sew my seams to my shoulders. So I've laid out my back piece, right side facing me. And what you wanna do is being very careful because you don't wanna make the mistake and sew it like that. You wanna make sure that you're sewing the right panel. So take a look at your top. I know this is the curve for the armpit, so I'm going to go ahead and place that right there. And then I'm going to take my other panel, which would be this one. We're going to go place that right there. Now you can pin it to not mix them up because it's very easy to mix those up. But let's take it over to the serger, or as always, you can use a regular zigzag stitch across the top with a regular sewing machine. So what we want to do, as always, first step would be to sew our top shoulder seams. Or that's the first thing I like to do on any of my outfits. And don't mind my nails. I know I look like I've been crawling out of a well, and honestly, it's a sewing hazard because they're so jagged. They keep catching threads to my outfits. I gotta go get them done ASAP. So embarrassing. So that's one shoulder. Let's put on our second shoulder. Oopsie, I almost messed it up right there. You got to be super careful. That's why with this one, I would suggest you guys to pin it so you don't sew it on the wrong way or mix the panels up. Okay, now that we have our shoulders done, we're going to go ahead and put our sleeves on. Okay, so we have our sleeve. This is our shoulder seam. This is our armpit points, right? Here's our sleeve. Here's where this should match up with our shoulder seam and our armpit points. As always, we want to make sure we sew on our sleeve, right sides facing. So from this point, sew, and then you're going to end up here. So I'll show you what that looks like on the machine. Okay. So right sides facing, let's do this one. Right sides facing. I'm gonna match up my 2 armpit points. I don't know what they call that, like the true definition of those points. I just call them armpit points because they literally sit underneath the armpit once the outfit's done. So keeping these 2 edges lined up, we wanna go all the way around. You're not stretching, you're just keeping these neatly lined up. And by the time you get to the end, they should match up perfectly like so. And then we'll go ahead and do the other side. So the next thing I'm gonna do is add my panties for the front to the outfit. And I'm just going to lay these front sides touching. And I'm just gonna sew along the bottom. Making sure right sides are touching, you're sewing that front panty cross line to the back panel. And once that's done, we're gonna add our gusset. So the next thing you're gonna wanna sew is a gusset. I don't usually do gussets. Come on, puppy. I don't usually do gussets. I've never had a dancer ask for one or ask why I didn't have one in there, but because we are using like a sheer mesh or whatever, we're gonna use a gusset. Now, with this, I know that my customer, she doesn't want the gusset for, you know, the panty lining. She wants the gusset to be more up here. So I'm actually not gonna use this today, but when you use it, what I would do is line it up. You can pin it supposed to actually be like up more, I think. You're gonna pin it and then sew it and then proceed. But for me, I'm gonna not use a gusset. I actually want the coverage to be from here up. So when I do that, basically I'm taking my front panty piece and I'm just gonna make my own gusset to match, or I wouldn't even call it a gusset. It's gonna be just like more coverage. And I know she wants it to go like halfway up. So grab my corn can, because nobody wants to pay $20 for some weights. And I'm just gonna It was kind of sloppy, but you get the point. And then boom, right? And then I'm just going to take my outfit to the front of the panties. And you'll see how this looks when it's done. And I'm gonna serge, and I'll let my serger take off whatever excess there is so that she does have more coverage and it's not see-through, you know, showing her thing. So I'm gonna take that over to the sewing machine. And I'm just gonna start sewing right on my crotch seam. Or serging, I should say. Keeping my edges matched up. I'm not stretching or anything like that. And I'm just gonna let my machine take off that little extra that's right there. Because what would have happened if I used the gusset pattern, or the gusset that's with the pattern, is it would have just covered this section. My customer wants her whole, you know, tutu covered for this. But like I said, if I wasn't using and you want to make sure this is staying nice and straight, if I wasn't using a mesh, a see-through material, I wouldn't even use a gusset, to be honest with you, because like I said, I've never had a customer ask me for one or ask why I didn't have one. So I don't know if that's the same for anyone else, but that's just how it is for me. And as you can see, now that's covered. I'll probably try to take a straight edge to that again, just to make it look more clean. But when it's stretched, you won't be able to see all that. As you can see, a lot more coverage in the gusset. So that's why I went ahead and did that. You do not have to do this. Like I said, this is just because my material is see-through and we didn't want, you know, part of her hoo-ha hanging out. So the next thing we're gonna wanna do is we wanna turn our outfit inside out so the outside is facing us, and we wanna start at the very end of our sleeve, at the tip. Oh my God, my jagged nails. Right at the tip, and we're gonna sew from the tip all the way down. So like I said, starting at my tip, just gonna line those up. Keep my edges together, and I'm gonna sew, or if you're on a regular sewing machine, you're gonna use a zigzag. Could probably even use a stitch. And you should, when you're done sewing your sleeves, these two armpit points should match up perfectly. And you're just gonna keep going down. Until we get the 2 points, to the 2 ends of the points. And you're gonna do the exact same thing for the other side. Just to give you a better visual of what we should be sewing, this side is done. As you can see, I started at the tip, went all the way to my armpit point, and down to the hip point, connecting my front panel and my sleeve. So we're gonna do, oh, not my face. We're gonna do from this point all the way down to our armpit point and keep going down to your hip point. But can we get a visual on why I called this the angel? Because does that not truly look like some angel wings? Like, come on. So now that we have added all of our pieces or serged all our pieces together, we want to take elastic to all of our raw edges. The only thing that you're not going to be adding elastic to are your sleeve openings. Do not add elastic to these. So I'm just gonna do a quick little video of the first part that I add the elastic to, and then you guys should get the gist of that, because you guys catch on quickly. So I'm just gonna put that under. And remember, we just want to we don't want to stretch our elastic here. We don't want to not stretch our elastic all. We just want to keep it taut. So there should just be a little tug, and we're not going to stretch the fabric. We're just going to be pulling the elastic just a tiny bit. Because if you pull it too hard, your outfit is going to look bunched. If you don't pull it enough, it's going to look wavy. So we want to make sure that we are just tugging just enough, just a little bit, and we're keeping the edges right along each other. And we're going to do this for all of our raw edges except for our sleeves. And then we're going to keep going. So what I do is I stop at the points. I go back under. And just like I said, serge all the way around. Making sure you're adding the elastic to the inside of your outfit. And again, all of our sides. So now that I have all of my elastic to all of my edges, I'm going to turn my outfit from inside out to the correct way, right? And the next thing we want to do is we're going to serge our raw edges, our raw edges to our sleeve. And I'm going to show you how we do that. So starting at one of the points, I like to cut off that little extra, let my machine cut it off. And the reason why we do this is because, and we don't leave raw edges. We want to make sure that each of our raw edges are finished. And the easiest way to finish this is to serge it so that when we can fold it over, and it will fold over nice and neat and be the same length all the way around. Because if you didn't serge this, you're basically just folding this, and you could easily end up sewing one part way thicker, one part way thinner. So this just makes it easier after serging to sew it down, to tuck it under and sew it down, and it gives it a real nice finish. And you'll be able to see that once we get to that step, how nice it looks versus just leaving it raw. So we're going to do that to both sleeves, and it should end up looking like that. Oh. So now that we have all of our edges done, we want to tuck them under and sew or cover stitch. So here I am, and making sure your outfit is the correct way, right side facing you. And I'm just gonna go ahead and sew down my elastic. Now I do pull on my elastic once I have it on, because it will pop back into place, just so that I can get nice lines. And that's just how I do it. I'm not sure if that's the correct way, but I find that when you don't stretch the elastic when you're doing this last step, when they put it on and they do stretch it, those threads will pop. So you're just gonna go do this for every spot that you have put your elastic. After you're done getting all your elastic sewn down, you want to go to those sleeves where they're serged, and you just want to, just like that was, if that was elastic, you're just going to tuck that under and finish those up. You can give this a little pull if you need to, just to be able to keep it nice and straight. And you'll be able to see how I'm able to keep that same width all the way around. If I didn't serge it, there's no way. There's no way. Oh, let me tuck that under. There's just no way I would have been able to do that. I'm just gonna cut all that extra off. And your sleeve should end up looking so cute. Gives it a great finish. And this is where you can get creative. There's so many different things that you can use to close the top up, and also for the panties. So you can use O-rings, right? You can use an O-ring up there. You can use a bikini connector, which is super pretty. What I'm going to do is I will use fold over elastic, and my customer wants these tiny little clasps, which you can get on Amazon. If I remember, I'll post the link with the video. So basically they're just these little they're a pain in the ass. These little clasps, which I'm putting it on wrong. I don't know why I'm struggling. There we go. These little clasps, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a channel for them. And the first thing I'm going to have to do is feed my elastic through. This is 1 inch elastic. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed it through so that my connector is like that. And I'm going to sew this onto there. And I'm also going to do it on the same, and I'm going to sew it right on that seam line. So right on that seam line that goes down the center, or the side of the body. And I'm going to do that to both sides, and I'm going to show you on the sewing machine. I am going to use a straight stitch for this because you want this to be sturdy. You don't want it to stretch. I'll probably grab something smaller than a 1 inch unless I could feed that through, and we'll go through the steps on the sewing machine. Okay, so I have set up, so I'm going to use 3 connectors, right? And I've set them up like this using my fold over elastic. So whether you're using O-rings, anything like that, you should have a setup like this. But before I add these, what I want to do is go over to the front of the underwear. And we see that this is a raw edge. So we want to fold that over just a little bit and do a straight stitch to close that up. Don't forget to back stitch. I like to go over a few times to make sure it's extra sturdy. So after we do that, it should look like this. Then my next step would be to add my connector to that. And again, using a straight stitch, it should look like that. So I'm going to place that in the center. Get that as close to the edge as possible. And you should be looking at something like that. That's how I do it. If you had bigger connectors, you could probably just add your bikinis right, or your strap right through them, but I'm using a small one. And like I said before, we're gonna want to add the other side using your side seam. Use that as a reference where to place this, making sure nothing's tangled. And you want to place it so it's centered with this side seam. And you're gonna definitely need some kind of tab for this part, the upper part. That's why I use fold over elastic to make my tab. And just again, using a straight stitch. I'm gonna go over it a few times because you want that to be very sturdy, because when they're taking it on and off, if they're not using the clasps, it could potentially get a little stretch there. And so after you add your clasp to the bottom, it should look like this. You can take it off to put it on, or just pull it over, which I'm assuming most people are just gonna pull it over. So that's why we want to go back and forth a few times to make sure that this is super durable for when it gets stretched. So the last thing we're gonna do is the centers. Now you can either do the same as this, but what I think I'm gonna do is I think I'm just gonna try to feed that little point through this instead of using the fold over. Okay, change of plans. I grabbed a larger clasp. So just feed it through, and again, straight stitch both sides. And there she is. The angel pattern. I swear to God, I love her. She looks good with any fabric, I swear to God. Just keep in mind, I did do a large, so I do have her pinned. But she's gorgeous, love her.